I admit I'm stuck for an induction for this month. So I'm going back to a tried and true, well, not really tried and true, I only did this 3 months ago for the best, worst, and blandest of 2021. So I was on a Discord call with a couple of friends, and I asked them to give me a year. And one of them said the year 1959. Think I need to make a change. That works. Now, I could present to you in a decent way the best, worst, and blandest of 1959. Around this time, you were seeing the after effects of the game show scandals, namely the quiz show scandals, especially because of the rigging of the $64,000 question, challenge, 21, and Dada, where they literally gave the answers to a champion and paid somebody off to keep quiet about it. So they knew what was going on, and once everything blew up, game show started to implode. Sure, some would come back and be great, but there was one show in particular during this time period that I really enjoyed, and it came from the people who were partly responsible for the quiz show scandals, i.e., the people behind 21, Barry and Enright Productions. But they sold this show to NBC because of said scandals. I give you the best game show, in my opinion, of 1959, Concentration. Hugh Downs was a master, and so was Art James when he filled in during this time period. Also, as announcer was Bob Clayton. Bob Clayton played his role perfectly, too. And this show had a lot of play-along factor that other shows around this time period, some of the giants like What's My Line, I've Got a Secret, To Tell the Truth, really didn't have. Well, To Tell the Truth did because they didn't tell you who was who, but it still was very fun to play along with. And the reason I consider this the best of 1959 is something that Mark Goodson did behind the scenes. Now, Mark Goodson was notorious for, bagging on other people's shows. But the story goes, when Mark Goodson saw Concentration for the first time, he talked to the creator of the show, Norm Blumenfeld. He talked to him and said, I wish I had come up with this idea. If Mark Goodson, the guy who is notorious for ragging on other people's shows, says your show is great, well, it's got to be the best show of 1959. I would give it to The Price is Right, but I kind of have a feeling that show would have gotten a lot. When I do this for other years in the 50s and the 60s, in the 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s and 2010s, possibly 2020s, it's going to have its day. So, 1959 goes to Concentration. It's alright, I guess. Now, I can understand the appeal of a bland game show, especially in the early days of TV. Although, TV had lost its innocence. So, some people thought it'd be a good idea to go back to its heyday with certain shows that worked during the very early days of television and radio. One show in particular came back during this time period and was horribly bland. And it's a shame that Tom Kennedy is part of it. I give you Dr. IQ. There is Tom Kennedy being Dr. IQ. Now, the show is insanely simple. Go to the studio audience, you ask an audience member a question. If you get it right, you get, anywhere between 6 and 15 silver dollars. If you don't, then you get a silver dollar. That's essentially the game. And sometime during the show, a sound will go off and you get to play a wheel for up to $100. That not really exciting at all. It's just a conveyor belt of of question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. Now, I might be looking at this as somebody who was born well after, the simplicity factor wears off. I mean, I was born in 86, so during this time we already had the straightest Q&A show that we had was Jeopardy. And later on, we did have the Quiz Kids Challenge. Honestly, this show was just white bread with a side of mayonnaise bland. To me, at least.
It did happen! Can't win with it! Oh, no!
Now, some people might be shocked about what I say about this show because I kind of gave it a positive inclination during an old induction that I had of Strike It Rich. Trust me, if Strike It Rich aired in 1959 at any point in time in new episodes, I would give this to Strike It Rich. But I can't. What also doesn't help is that not a lot of shows in 1959 still exist. So, with that being said, I have to give it to Queen for a Day. Now, I know I said it was gross done right. However, it is still gross. And 1959 was kind of when Queen for a Day was at its peak, but starting to trend downward, if you get my drift. Jack Bailey, I will say, though, is a master at what he does in creating suspense, drama, and making you feel for all of the contestants' plight. He would reach out when a contestant starts to sob, and he would pull out the traditional white handkerchief, pass it to him so they could wipe the tears. And, most of the people who go on that show maybe just for, like, a medical device or a new dishwasher or something like that. But the way they go about it, it is still... I mean, somebody from this day and age would feel dirty watching this show. And after watching a dozen or so episodes, I still feel dirty watching Queen for a Day. I mean, it's the emotional drama that a lot of NBC shows in the 2010s preyed upon. I mean, you have The Wall and Deal or No Deal. They were doing this where folks were like, "Oh, you deserve it with all that you've been through. You are so inspirational." And while some of that is true, there's some inspiration for what they did. I mean, quite a few times during the show they had people who survived Nazi internment camps. But still, the whole of Queen for a Day is unbearably gross. And to me, without anything else that could really, I can't call bad or so bland that it makes it into the bad category, Queen for a Day is the worst game show of 1959. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for watching this nice little best, worst, and blandest of 1959 video. Leave a comment below what is your favorite game show, your blandest game show, and worst game show of 1959. Yes, I know we're skewing very, very esoteric here. But also, like the video, please. It will allow it to be seen through a lot more folks. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you want to give me your suggestions for a best, worst, and blandest of X year, become a Patreon backer at patreon.com/GameShowGumbo and tell me what year would you like to see covered. I'm Cindy Seidelman. I will see you next time. And next time, I promise I won't fake being in black and white. Ta-ta.